Hi, everybody. This is Bill Stevens. This is the Silverline Task Force for the town of Matthews. And this is our third meeting. Is that right? We're already into the third meeting?
Correct.
All right. So the first two items on the agenda have to do with reviewing the prior meeting, overview of the prior meeting, and the approval of the minutes. And I am almost ready to kick it off. So I'll say this will be probably the last meeting where we have the overview of the prior meeting as an agenda item. The expectation going forward will be that everybody has seen and had a chance to review the meeting minutes from the previous meeting, and we can move right into the approval of the minutes. Okay, so what happened 2 weeks ago? We had Andy Mock from the CATS organization give us both a summary and a presentation related to the Lynx Blue Line. We reviewed a lot of the different decisions that had to be made regarding the Blue Line and a lot of the good work that the CATS team had to make for the Blue Line. And then we also tried to, Andy, tried to relate that information to the types of decisions and information that we're going to need to take in for the Silver Line here in Matthews. We had some time for questions and comments related to his presentation. And we concluded the meeting with a broad introduction of where we're going with this committee and how we could potentially use the time that we have going into November prior to presenting presenting some information to the town board about how we can help the town board make a decision on the Silver Line. And how the locally preferred alternative will be either recommended or modified or somehow turn into a proposal from this committee to the town board. Okay, so next order of business is the approval of minutes, and I am connected entirely right now from my phone, so it's hard for me, Dana, to see the full list of attendees. If you could help me out, Dana, by doing a roll call and ask for approval.
Shayna said that we don't need to do a roll call. Shayna, is that correct? So she's clerk, she's deputy clerk. So Shayna, we do not need to do a roll call for the when we approve the minutes?
We didn't need to do roll call to see who's here. Now, as far as the minutes go, if there's anyone who does not, I guess, instead of doing the whole roll call, if there's anyone who does not want to approve the minutes or wants to make a change to them, if they can state their name when they either approve, yay, deny, those people state their name. Does that make sense?
So, Sheena, do you want me to go through roll call and actually say everyone's name or no?
You can. That's fine.
Okay, so I'm sharing my screen, so I don't want, do you want to, if Sheena, do you have a list of everyone who's here? Can you do that for?
I do. I can do that.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So first we would need a motion.
I'll make the motion to approve the minutes. So
okay. Is this Mr. Stevens?
Yes, this is Bill Stevens.
Okay, and Mr. Abernathy?
Approve. Yay.
Okay. Mr. Blackley?
Yay.
Mr. Dixon?
Yes.
Miss Edwards?
Yes.
Mr. Hugh?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson? Mr. Lamson,
Yes.
Ms. Lewis,
Yes.
you made the motion. Ms. Reeves,
Yes, and if you need a second on the motion, you can put me down.
thank you. I just thought about that when I was halfway down the list.
I'll second it, Christoph.
Ms. Saunders,
Yes.
all right, that's everybody we got here.
You didn't call my name, Mr. Scott Phillips.
Oh, did I not? I'm sorry, Mr. Phillips. I skipped right over you. Mr. Phillips, how you feel about it?
Yay.
Okay, thank you. So the
All right,
minutes,
thank you, everybody. The minutes are approved. Okay, so review of the 2017 locally preferred alternatives. So I just want to introduce this, Dana, if you could give me just a 30 seconds here. Again, the locally preferred alternative was presented to the town board back in 2017, and it was, I believe, adopted. And now we're basically forming this task committee to gather as much information as we possibly can and make a recommendation to, I'm going to say, tweak the locally preferred alternative or adopt it as it is. That'll be a decision we need to make. And so that's the goal of this committee. The decisions outside of the locally preferred alternative, I think we want to try to stay focused on the topics and the content and the body of the locally preferred alternative, and things outside of that locally preferred alternative. Those are things that we want to, if we feel that like those are important pieces of information that communicate to the town board. I think that what we need to do is recommend a strategy for making decisions based on those additional pieces. An example is artwork. Now, the artwork surrounding the stations, the artwork along the Silver Line is a very important thing, but it's not a decision that we need to bring into the locally preferred alternative. However, Matthews does have a group that is and probably would be very interested in helping with artwork on the locally preferred alternative. And so what we could do is recommend to the town board that they employ that group, that committee or that interest group, to help them recommend and document how to make decisions on artwork on the Silver Line. So that kind of jumped down into the other topics, but I wanted to mention that this is our focus, the locally preferred alternative. Okay, back to you, Dana.
Okay, can everyone hear me? Okay, great. So I just one point of clarification, though. I appreciate every one of you. So we do have this locally preferred alternative that was adopted in 2017. And next meeting, Andy Mock's going to come back to us, and he's going to show us all of the options, which is probably going to be the locally preferred alternative or the locally preferred alternative with tweaks or another alignment. So there'll be like maybe 2.5 for you all to review and figure out what is going to be the best to recommend to the board. So we have to recommend to the board a locally preferred alternative. Whether it's what I'm going to show you or something slightly different is up to you all. So this was, like the chairperson said, this was adopted in 2017. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to now click off this screen and go into Charlotte Explorer, and we're going to sort of drive through the alignment. I sent you out the purple map. And hopefully you all took a look at that, which was a little vague. And then Jennifer was like, oh, I need something a little bit more specific. And so I sent her this, basically this application that I'm about to get into. And it's a little hard to use, and that's why we didn't send it out initially. So give me 1 second. Let me pull it up. Okay. I'm going to make sure you guys have a minute to refresh your screen. Can you see a map on your screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to see how this works. I'm going to pull it out really wide, and I'm going to give it a second to get everyone oriented. And I know there's going to be a delay, so I'm just going to give it a second. And hopefully you can see a whole region. Hopefully you can see, I'm hoping you can see my cursor on the Belmont area, so across the Catawba River. That is potentially where this alignment will start. It'll go through the west side, have an airport stop, go around downtown on the north side, and then follow 74 for a while, and then make its way into Matthews. So I'm going to blow up the section that is basically Monroe Road, and we're going to go sort of drive through it. The purple, there's no way for me to blow up certain things, so I apologize. But you see these purple boxes? These are where the potential stops will be. So the actual, stations will be. So we are on Independence. We are driving towards Matthews. Right now, it is the Silver Line will be cutting through Village Lake, 2 Village Lakes drives. Again, this is that locally preferred alternative. There's, when we see it on the 5th, there'll be iterations of this. And then it basically goes into onto Monroe Road. And so Susan's going to have to help me with, and it's hard to tell, and I don't know if it's accurate. Right now it's showing on Monroe Road, center median running alignment. Some, depending on what happens, it could be on one side of the road or the other side of the road or in the middle of the road. And if this is correct, if this GIS is correct, and again, this is not our shapefile, this is from the city of Charlotte. I'm thinking this is showing median running. So we are going down Monroe Road, going down Monroe Road. And let me turn on the aerials. And so I don't know if this is going to slow it down. Actually, I'm going to wait to turn on the aerials until we get to Matthews.
So is that dotted line that we're seeing, that says Charlotte subdivision, is that the border with Matthews right there?
Hold on. I don't think we're there quite yet. No, we're not quite into Matthews yet. We are still, we have not passed. Here's Sardis Road North, so we're getting very close. Sardis Road North, and our boundary is, see if it shows. I see, I don't know if it's going to show it on this map. I see, here it is, right here. So right by the Galleria, you see how it says Charlotte and Matthews?
Yeah.
So you got the boundaries right there. So Let me see if I can click on the base map, and I don't know if it's going to slow it down.
Is that it's going right through the Family Dollar building?
No, so here, hold on. That is actually, oh, maybe it is Family Dollar. Hold on a second, let me just get the
Or
aerial.
Pick and Pay, whichever one of those.
Let me see if I do 2019 aerials. Let's see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got, so that's not going to show me the boundary anymore. I don't know if I can do a hybrid. I apologize. I'm just trying to, this is not a system I use a whole lot.
Okay, I think we all understand the boundary is like where the white building is with the circle. The boundary is just north of that. That big wooded area on the left side of the purple line is the apartment complex that's currently under construction.
Yeah.
Susan, is there a way to do the aerials with the names of the roads?
I've not found that yet.
Okay. So we may have to we may have to flip back and forth because I want to make sure we have road names on here. Okay, so we are, so Susan, am I correct that they are center median operations on Monroe Road right now.
So this is showing a median running facility down the middle of Monroe Road.
Okay. So we are now past, so this is, we've got Family Dollar, and we're coming up onto Industrial Drive. So here's Industrial Drive to your right, and you'll see, so this is what is really sort of hard to read in the other purple line, is where it crosses over from Monroe Road headed into Sam Newell. And so this is probably, this is one iteration. And so with the LPA, with this locally preferred alternative, and all the other options that CATS is currently looking at, they're basically doing an inventory of like all the buildings, all of the things that they're impacting, and we can show, we can get that from them, because one of the things that I think you all said you were interested in when you're filling out the survey, and I will show you those results later, is how many businesses are going to be impacted. So you see that with this, they're gonna take out businesses no matter where it crosses, because something like this isn't going to be able to avoid it. So this is what they're proposing under this scenario, under this design. And I can look for, if you'd like, I will click on now that we all know we're on Industrial Drive at Monroe Road, I'm going to click the aerial so that you guys can see a little better what's back there. And I don't know the businesses' names, and I don't know what exactly who's back here and what businesses are going to be impacted, but this will give you a better understanding of what is going on. And you see here this line, and this is a CSX railroad line. So Susan, I'm correct that this is going to have to be bridged, correct?
The mute button gets me every time. Yes, bridged.
Okay, so they will have to take a bridge to this, because this is actually pretty low lying, this section of CSX. Okay, so I'm going to zoom out just a bit, because just to the north of this is the quarry. So you see this big space with the big ugly holes, and that's the very active quarry. And so it traverses right at the edge of the quarry line, and then makes a hard right. And again, that's going to be, I believe that's Sam Newell. Just want to make sure. Yes. Okay. So that is Sam Newell, and it's showing that it's going to be side running at this point. So is that correct, Susan? That
yes. Yes, it's side running along Sam Newell. And then they're imagining that once it gets to Matthews Township Parkway, perhaps it would be an underground crossing. If you all were part of this process in 2016, CAT showed the board a rendering of what a bridge over Matthews Township Parkway might look like. Right there at North Trade Street, and the board was not pleased with that visual impact right as you come into our downtown. So CATS, I think in that adopted alignment, put it in as an underpass.
So here, okay.
Dana, sorry, if you can pause just for a second. Does anybody have any, I'm not looking for comments or particular input on that. I just wondering, Dana, you really blew through a lot of really important detail there. Does anybody have any specific questions or things that might help clarify what we're seeing?
Susan, did you say underground across Matthews Township and Trade as well? So that whole section there would be underground?
That's right, and it would come out on the other side of Trade Street.
Okay. Thank you.
I didn't hear the answer to that. Could you repeat that, please?
Sure, no problem. The underpass would start north of Highway 51, Matthews Township Parkway, and go under 51 and under North Trade Street and come out to the southeast at some point. I don't know where they think it would come out at, but it would come out once it gets under North Trade Street.
Okay.
This is
another
Kerry.
question.
Go ahead.
Another question. How wide is that purplish strip?
I don't know.
I believe the width he gave us last time was, 35 feet. What's not factored in is the rail trail project that accompanies this project and how an underpass would affect the rail trail. Would it go under with it, which would make it a wider underpass, or would it somehow navigate overland to get back to the rail alignment? And I also don't know if there's any like buffer width. You know, that was a at grade width he gave us as far as like the train envelope. I don't know if there's any offsets for the catenary system or any of those things. So it might actually be wider. It currently does that from the blue line. It goes underneath North Tryon Street to get onto campus, but I don't remember the dimensions from those plans.
Dana, could you zoom out just one click, maybe?
I think Carrie had a question.
Yeah, yes. My question is, as you go through this, could you talk a little bit about the elevation changes that may be occurring anywhere in this process, as well as pointing out, as you just did, that there's a bridge potentially at this location and now a tunnel at this location? I'm curious as to whether or not they have bridged over businesses in the past. To the earlier point about whether or not we're going to be disruptive to actual physical structures or not.
That's a question in terms of if they've bridged over other businesses. Hold that question till August 5th when Andy is here. Because Susan, do you know of any businesses they've bridged across? I don't. I'm not as familiar with the Blue Line. So, you know, we work for the town, not for cats.
Andy referred to it a little bit at the last meeting, if I can recall. Didn't he talk about an elevated station that was near that school? But I don't think it was bridging over businesses. I think they purchased the land. I'm motioning. I realize I don't have my video on. They purchased the land underneath the rail too, I believe. So when that bridge came in, I think they're used underneath it. I know the one in NODA, they have like the access to maintenance facilities. So I don't know of any, but Dana's right. That's a good question for next meeting.
And if I may, I had one other question, and I asked this of Andy at the last meeting, and that is the use of the quarry as a more viable means of getting down through to Matthews, particularly if there's an opportunity in 20 to 30 years to develop the quarry into a recreational facility with a lake and whatever else might be on. And I believe he commented there were some physical restrictions to that, but I don't recall what they are.
The quarry historically has been kind to like the Greenway, like Mecklenburg County Park and Rec. They had a good relationship with Kathy English and her, former planning director, but they have no plans to stop mining. As they say, as long as there's road construction going on, they're going to be excavating there. And so that's a really far out timeline. I think Andy was mentioning that they had investigated it in 2017, and it was determined to put it at that southern edge. And I think that's all he committed to, by my recollection from the last meeting.
Thank you.
And Carrie, I will say in terms of just general planning, both Matthews and the city of Charlotte for our 2050 planning process, which is the one of the travel demand model processes, all of us did not show any development at our quarries. So as a region, we didn't, while I'm from Baltimore, they took one of the quarries that they mined forever and they made it into a great community. And I know that transformation can happen. I think right now, the jurisdictions just are all sort of trying to be like-minded and say that may be a great place for development, and you could probably put a stop there at some point. But right now, in the current horizon years of the project and what we plan for, we're just not touching it right now.
So can you point out on this current image, where is the railroad?
Purple. Oh, I'm
No,
sorry,
that's-
CSX? CSX.
CSX, thank you,
I
yeah.
apologize. CSX is
Okay.
here.
Hey, Dana, this is Scott. A comment to Lou's question earlier about the width. If you check our minutes, I think Alex addressed that. Various points have various width depending on whether they're multiple or dual-sided stations, et cetera. But the actual rail path, I think he did give the dimensions, but that may be applicable here or should be, but just FYI.
And can I ask a quick question about the fact that it's running on Sam Newell? What about it if it comes out of the after it crosses the railroad tracks and it takes a turn to the right and goes and hits the end of Cruise Road and comes out to the intersection down there?
I'm gonna blow this up for a second, okay?
Okay.
So Cruise Road here.
You can push the map up a little bit too. It might be helpful. Yeah.
Okay.
So if it comes out, instead of coming out, crossing the railroad tracks, and instead of ending up on Sam Newell, what if it comes through the back down at where Cruise Road goes into whatever that other street is? I don't know the name of that one. Because you have a large lot on the corner that I know they just cleared a building from. There's also that triangle of woods across from the CVS, as well as the big set of woods behind it that could be parking and a station.
So that's, again, I can't answer that. We can ask Andy this. And I think one of the reasons we're doing this tonight is that we can really look at this and have all the questions that we want to ask him for our next meeting to see what other options he's bringing to us. Susan, are you familiar with any analysis they've done on Cruise Road and coming this way?
Coming through Team Road, yeah. So that road name is Team Road, and I am trying to pull up the concept board, Dana, because of the question about the elevations.
Okay.
So I'm trying to get into that, and then I can see. I am not remembering an alt going through there, but it doesn't mean that we can't ask Andy about it next week, just as Dana said. So keep these ideas coming. I'm sure Shayna's got that idea in the notes. And Jennifer, if we forget next week, and absolutely bring it up.
Okay.
So,
it just looks like it might impact fewer businesses if it goes through there. And if it's going to take a dive at that intersection of Sam Newell and Township Parkway anyway, doesn't look like it would matter.
it's a good point, because one of the things that Dana and I brought up when we were evaluating the East alignment is, hey, fire, police, and EMS are right there, and they use that connection to Sam Newell, obviously, multiple times a day. If that gets blocked, what does that do to emergency services for our
That's a good point. That's
And
a good point.
I don't
kind of
see a
blocking in.
station anywhere there, and there's a ton of apartments and a lot of business out there too, but there's nowhere for them to access it unless they go way back to Industrial Drive or wherever we're headed forward, which I can't see yet.
Right. Okay, well, I have the Team Road, as we'll definitely make sure we note that question.
Okay.
So we get you an answer. And Susan is looking on another app to see if we can answer some of the other questions. So are there any other, before I shift from here, are there any questions from Monroe across Industrial Drive? We've got the quarry here. We're crossing down Sam Newell. Any other questions before I shift the alignment? Okay, I don't see any hands up, so I am gonna shift this down and let me pull this up. So I'm gonna give you a broad picture and then I'll zoom in. So like Susan said, this section crossing over 51 will be underground and then pop back up. And then this, in this rendition, this is going right through the middle of Novant's parking lot and then making a curve onto Matthews Mint Hill. So I'm going to zoom in here. And you can see that it's going to have to pop up somewhere here.
Mm-hmm.
And then whether it can be nestled in between these buildings, and here, I think there's a slight elevation here, and then cross through, we don't know, this is not an engineered line. This is a GIS line. That's the whole point of what Andy's group is doing now, is actually really doing an engineered drawing. I see Lynn's hand is raised.
So if somebody was planning on saying downtown as a destination, where's the stop that they get off at?
Right. So we're almost there.
Okay.
We're driving on, the light rail is coming through the campus, and the stop, let's see, that's a great, oh, here it is. It's right there. So the stop would be in this iteration is tucked in the middle of their parking. I think the thought initially was having some sort of parking deck, shared parking with Novant. Is sort of, it's very, this is definitely a hill going up this way. We know that lots of people in scrubs come into downtown Matthews. I see people walking all the time. I'm not quite sure if there's a secret squirrel cut through. I'm not quite sure how, I've never walked the campus. We would love to see, some sort of real connection here, but in this drawing, this is what it's showcasing. And I know, Lynn, you had the question about Novant and those discussions. Quite frankly, Novant's getting new leadership at this campus. So Roland was the president of this campus for 20 plus years, and he just retired. He retired maybe this month or last month. So we will have brand new leadership. So it's that's just something we're going to have to contend with. This new person could be really a proponent. They could be neutral. They could be a someone who's not in favor of this. We just don't know yet.
Does Matthews own any of that property at the moment? Meaning
No,
the parking is all Novant at this point.
This is all on Novant's property.
Okay.
And can you zoom out just a little bit? Trying to.
Is that good?
Maybe just one more.
Okay, let me pull it this way.
Trying to get, yeah.
Lynn, your hand's still up. Do you have another question? Jennifer, do you have a question?
No, I'm just looking at options that I'm sure have been explored, but I'm still looking.
That's right, because we staff have talked to them about multiple sort of, tweaks to this option, where we can put it potentially, if it's coming, further up and, hold on, I didn't mean to move the screen, coming up further, coming this way, or just making it further here so we're not impacting the parking. Maybe they won't won't be as much opposition. It'll get it closer to, downtown. Again, we will see what is viable. We have lots of ideas, but when they actually try to design stuff, that's where, we get, when you get into the weeds in engineering, that's where we have to figure out where all the utilities are, all the, all the things that complicate this project.
So can you show us, sorry, I know you just went over this, Dana, but I just want to see it one more time with the pointer. Can you show us where it will go underground and where just conceptually where it's going to pop back up again?
So it's going underground because we want to go under, they want to go under 51. So it would start, around here, it'd have to go underground and then pop up on this side across Trade Street. So from this corner to about here. And again,
Susan,
Andy, we can have Andy, confirm that, but that is what we've been told.
So Susan, it occurs to me that we're basically boxing in the police station. Is there any situation on the blue line where the police station has to contend with the blue line?
They can get out this way.
Right, but
Okay.
I mean, if they have to go, say they have to go to Independence.
There's a fire station that we were working with on Tryon Street. And I think they redid their routing to, it was at a signalized intersection. I feel like the fire station redid their routing, but think about Charlotte Fire has what, like 34 stations. We have two.
Susan, hey, this is Wyatt. I'm sorry. I think one thing too is just relevant to that, which is, they haven't gotten as far as, where they're going to allow at-grade crossings and where they're expecting it not, and things like that. And I know that'll come as this plan evolves, but guarantee you with that question, you're right. They're going to be paying a lot of attention to life safety.
Great point, Wyatt. Thank you.
And I'm sorry, I'll just ask a second question that actually I was curious about before. And Susan, this is to you or Dana. Could you provide a little bit of context about town leadership's desire in terms of getting closer to the downtown and embracing it more or staying further away? I'm just, as everybody's thinking about different alternatives, understanding a little bit of background related to that would be a big help for me.
Sure. Yeah, it was talked about a lot in the adopted plan for sure, as Matthews as a destination. But I think that question is something that the current leadership would like this group to examine for them. Dana, is that your understanding too from the conversations with the mayor?
Well, I think that the mayor, they want you all to pick the alignment, right? Or give a recommendation. So I would say that's a part of the conversation that we, need to have is having, we can talk about the benefits and the drawbacks of having a station closer into downtown. And having that as a destination. So I think that discussion can be a part of the criteria that we're going to talk about later during this meeting, and how we want to perceive that.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to continue driving.
I have a question a little bit back there. Now, with the police station, right after the police station, they're doing that pop underground. Is it a lot more expensive to maybe do the underground before the police station, and then that way it doesn't interfere with any emergency services?
There's a cost to everything, but that's a point that we can bring up. If they need to not block it, there's ways to not block it. Like you said, there's underground, there's overground, there's bridging. So that's something that I can write that down as well.
So I don't know if it raises to the level of concern, but there's certainly a curiosity as to the engineering around the police station. I think that certainly is something that I'm interested in. If I had to work there as a emergency services person, I would want to know, how am I going to get out?
Mhm.
So, and I'm hearing that on a couple of fronts. So, Wyatt, I think you raised the point that we'll learn more about at-grade crossings versus other types of crossings next month, and we are also kind of tossed around. Is that line potentially something that we could shift to the other side of the police station? I think is what I heard earlier. So, all good questions, all good curiosities.
And Bill, to your point, what you will see up and down the blue line is CATS will have a standard of how often and how frequently you can have any type of crossing. And so without a doubt, this will create situations where there'll be dead end conditions. And that's, that'll be part of the process. But that is, with the good, that's one of the pieces of the bad that comes with it.
Good point. And then I also heard in the conversation there was some curiosity about the trade-offs about an in-town station and access to downtown from a station, right? So that's certainly something I'm interested in too. It seems like we could design a rail that would be a commuter rail, and we could design a rail that would be a rail that would facilitate more in-town activity, and maybe there's a merger of the two. Anyway, so it's a point well taken. I'd like to hear the presentation on in-town station as opposed to 5 blocks away station.
And I will note that that's a great, could be after August 5th, that could be a great presentation staff can create for you all to react to. Okay, so I'm going to keep driving.
This is David Blackman. Can I make one point? This being in business in downtown with the regular railroad, trains do block intersections. Trains do break down. It has happened enough. And I agree with the police department concerns that that's a bad place for it to break down without discussing it further with CATS.
Thanks, David.
Hey, this is Natasha. Do we know if there are any plans in the future for the police station to move, or is that for sure where they're planning on staying for 20 plus years? I guess my question is, are we, if there's, I don't know, if the police station is going to eventually move or something like that, then this might be a moot point in that, just something to consider. I don't know.
Not that I know of.
Okay.
I mean, I know they're just doing a big renovation there.
Okay.
That Public Works is helping with. So, Susan, do you have any other insight on that?
I don't. Like you said, they've been renovating it every couple years. They fix it up a little bit more and fix it up a little bit more. And so I don't know of any plans to move it.
Thank you.
Okay, I will continue driving down the line. So we are now on Matthews Mint Hill Road. So it's continuing to cross. I believe almost all of this property still is Novant's. They do have some zoning cases, I think, that allow development here, as well as they did work with CATS on another, maybe some parcels internal to the campus to do some future building sites as well. So CATS and Novant have been working a long time together. Okay, now as we go through this alignment on Matthews Mint Hill, you'll see that it is now shifted to, is that the north side of the street? I don't know if this map is oriented north-south. So it is side running. and it is going to be side running throughout this area. And you'll see that this is going to have, you're going to have crossings and arms down in front of some of these businesses. So, every time you see this train line going across a driveway cut, there's going to be arms down, if they need to turn into those businesses. So you see.
Or they would reroute that access. Some of those businesses are actually really long parcels, and perhaps they might have access on a different road.
Okay, good point, Susan. Thank you. And so you'll see that we're going to the north side, and then we are turning a hard right. And this right here, you can't see it very well. These are high power lines from Duke. So Duke Energy has an easement. And I'm going to flip, maybe if I flip to the other map, just to give you a different perspective.
And while Dana does that, I'll say that then here, talking about adjacent grade, going through this intersection, there's a future extension of Independence Point Parkway. So this rail is showing going through a four-legged intersection. That would be a bridge across the intersection. It would originally, we had considered at grade and just shutting down the entire intersection. But lessons learned from the Blue Line extension, Andy talked a little bit about that at the last meeting. They're envisioning this would be a bridge.
A bridge over the intersection.
That's correct.
Wow.
Right. Okay. So you see this.
Hey, this is Wyatt. Obviously, we're talking about our property right here, and I'll just say to the overall committee, and Susan and Dana both know this because they've been involved in some of our conversations. We're having a lot of conversations about how this plays out for us, but want to make sure that it's going to work out very well for the town.
And we appreciate all the conversations that you've been having with CATS. And you can all see, you'll see this line right here, these brown lines that are going through, and this is all the Duke power easement. And so it's a high power voltage line there. And I think that's one of the reasons they've got to be careful when they go under there. And make sure that everything, especially because they're going to be bridging, they're going to try to bridge this sort of under it. And so they've got to make sure that they have all their clearances correctly. Go ahead.
No, I just say bridges are, in turn, they're the opposite of what is a placemaking activity in a lot of respects. And Dana, I think you hit the nail on the head that Duke is they have pretty, strong standards about, proximity, for, life safety to transmission lines. So that'll be you're right. That'll be quite a conversation.
Yeah, they're very rigid, and that they need to be.
Lynn, you have your hand raised?
Yes, I was wondering, when you create a bridge, where do you start the bridge? Where would the bridge have to start at to then cross over that section?
Let me check real quick what they are showing in the concept board. So they are showing it starting west. So there's a little T-shaped building right at the northwest corner of Independence Point Parkway, and well, it's not Matthew Street, but it's there you go, Matthews Manhattan. That's right. They're showing it kind of starting there and going all the way around the curve, past that first Yep, right about there. So it's showing going pretty far, and I wonder if it's because they're ramping up as well as turning, and I wonder if they just need to make it flatter to get up and over that, and under, like Dana said, under the utility line as well, transmission line.
And we've talked to them, I know Wyatt has too. There are definitely other options out there that I'm sure Andy will talk to you all about at the next meeting. But again, we're focusing on the LPA. This is what was adopted. So, one of the things that we started this conversation with is there's a lot of turns and curves going on through Matthews. And that's really, I think, an uncomfortable place for cats. They can make it work, but it's not, when most of the time when you see rail lines, they're straight. You see straight lines up and down the corridor because these curves are just, they're hard to deal with according to cats. So
is I can't find the button to raise my hand, but
okay.
I'm assuming that Independence Point Parkway, because it looks like it would probably have 2 or even 3 Duke Power issues, has that been ruled out?
Meaning extending Independence Point Parkway?
No, I mean trying to, if the rail line went on the other side on Matthews Mint Hill Road, not Matthews Mint Hill, on Matthews Township Parkway, and somehow wound its way over onto Independence Point, then it looks like it would have to cross Duke Power's lines about 3 times, right?
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
That's exactly why that was
Okay.
next.
Okay, that answered my question. Thank you.
Hey, Susan and Dana, hey, this is Wyatt. Sorry, my internet connection just completely crashed out, so I was gone for most of the last 3 or 4 minutes. Susan, would you mind sending me the details on sort of how that bridge lays out? Because as we're doing all of our analysis, it'd be, for some reason, I feel like I'm missing a piece of the communication with that, and that'd be great.
I will get up with Jenna and see what can be forwarded over to you. Yep, I'll do that.
So what we have here, so just to make sure that everyone is aware, Carrie, I see that your hand's up. Let me just finish my sentence and then we'll turn it over to you. For those folks who are not aware, so you see Independence Point Parkway here. This road is extending all the way down and is going to bridge over 485 and into Campus Ridge Road. So there is a road coming to this area. So, and that is something that's already in the planning processes. It is fully funded. It's all on pause because of NCDOT's funding issues, but it is part of the 74 widening project. So while it's not on this map, and for folks who don't deal with this stuff every day, like Susan and I just want to make sure that everyone understands that this isn't some field we're going through. We're not going to put a stop in the middle of nowhere. This stop is, I think, this may not be where it is currently what we're talking about, but part of the LPA, this stop is pretty low towards the sports complex. So this is this big sports complex. I'm gonna just turn on the aerial again to show everyone where we are. So you see down here, here's 485, here's CPCC, here's all the fields for the sports complex, and then there's you can start. I guess this is the beginning of the Wyatt, the apartments here, and then there's a big open field, and this is where that stop they just, I think, picked a place, and I think this stop will probably shift. So Carrie, I apologize. I just wanted to tell everyone that, and I'm happy to answer your question.
No, not a problem, Dana. I just wanted to make the comment that when we're looking at Old Matthews Mint Hill Road where that bend is, that we're less than a mile from the flyovers that will be Independence Boulevard. There's no traffic light going to be there, so has there been any discussion as to what happens to traffic that comes off of the 2 flyover ramps at the intersection where Independence is just a short distance down the road? And what impact that might have if we're going to be crossing, bridging, or otherwise? How many lanes will there be that are going to need to be navigated, or what impact is traffic going to be? Because it really is going to cut off the ability to get to downtown from the east side. We're going to have surface roads. We're not going to have the intersection there at Independence and Old Matthews Mid Hill when the flyovers occur, and so on. So by bisecting this with the transit solution, as well as what we're doing to add the expressway over on Independence, and wanting this whole section where the Dixon development and others is what we call the entertainment district, to develop into a destination, social, entertainment, sports. I mean, there's an awful lot of activity that I thought the town wanted to draw to this particular area. And right now, if you look at this picture, it's surrounded by expressways.
Carrie, couldn't agree more. I mean, I think there's great opportunity for us to have some influence to really make this a real place that the light rail will serve. And I think the other opportunity that I see just from the hip is to figure out what the right metrics are to help connect to downtown too. Because I mean, it's such a jewel, and you've got two, I think, very important parts to the character of Matthews that will, be forever changed if this is not done right.
So we had two factors I think that Dana started down. First off, Greylock Ridge, I think was the road that you were referring to, right, Dana?
For what?
The road that's going to be there that's not there now?
No, I was referring to Independence Point Parkway. So this road here, which is Independence Point Parkway,
yep.
This is going to carry through adjacent to those power lines and go all the way down. And actually, for those who don't know, Public Works is right here. It's going to go right adjacent to our building and then come over 485. So there is Greylock Ridge, which could potentially link in at some point, but that is not a funded project. And that is here. So in theory, oops, I'm looking in the right spot. I don't have my road names on. Hold on, let me just get the road names on so I don't mess this up. It is
Lou, I see your hand up.
I'm sorry, just give me a second. Here it is, Greylock Ridge. So Greylock Ridge is here. That's a little road here. This is John Street. And in theory, we could connect. We own property and we have pieces connecting to IPP for Independence Point Parkway. But that is not funded. That is not. Gotcha. So that's why I wanted to make sure that Independence Point Parkway, everyone realizes that is a funded project that has a very specific horizon date.
Lou Abernathy had his hand up.
Yeah, can we go back to Sam Newell where it turns, where the bridge would be over, where it would be bridged over to go on to Independence Point Parkway?
I am happy to do that.
And blow that up.
See what I do. I went too far. Hold on. There we go. Sam Newell. Okay. Do you want aerials or do you like the road names?
Aerials will be fine.
So here's Sam Newell, and here is where it goes over the railroad tracks here, and this is the quarry.
I'm sorry. I meant Matthews Mint Hill Road.
Sure.
I've directed to the wrong place. Matthews Mint Hill Road, where it crosses and gets on to Independence Point.
Oh, okay, absolutely. Here.
There we go. Yeah.
Perfect.
Now, one way to avoid tangling with the power lines might be to make that turn onto Independence Parkway sooner. Now, yes, there are buildings there which would have to be taken. And yes, we would be on the other side of Independence Parkway. We'll call it the west side, assuming this is oriented north. On the west side, it would require taking some buildings there, or at least portions of buildings, to maintain that same radius curve. But it would get out of the problem of a bridge, which requires an 18-foot minimum clearance above a road. So you can figure another at least 7 feet. You can figure 25 feet to the surface of the bridge. The power line itself, the high voltage power line, requires a clearance of 20 feet, I believe. So you're talking about raising a high voltage power line a whole bunch in order to clear the bridge work underneath. it might be less expensive to take some portion of those buildings on the west side, that would be the left side of the view, and go down the west side of Independence Point Parkway instead. Don't know the driving factor of going all the way to the east side with all that complexity involved in the bridge.
Yep, those are valid points, Lou, and that's something I've written that down. When we collect all these little tweaks ideas, this is absolutely something we can talk about at the next meeting with Andy. Thank you. Carrie, you have your hand raised. I was trying to answer your first question, Carrie, but then we moved on. So if you still want an answer to your first question, I'm happy to answer it. But if you have another question, we're happy to hear it.
Well, let me ask the second question because perhaps you can address this. Are there the same kind of restrictions to go under high tension wires as it is to go over or around them? Why don't we tunnel there?
Great question. Add it to the list. What I was going to say with Carrie's question about all the traffic coming off of 74, and there's going to be a bridge. Matthews Minhill Road is going to bridge over 74. We are really trying to ensure that CATS and NCDOT are talking and sharing plans, and we're trying to get traffic data out of NCDOT and into the hands of CATS, so that that can all be considered. We don't know the number of lanes on Matthews Minhill Road in this section. We are trying to keep it manageable. This is one of our gateways. I think you referred to that. And we're also grateful for Wyatt's continued conversations with CATS and NCDOT, because his development is helping to create that gateway feel as well, and just kind of help solidify this area as not a super highway, right? So it's definitely on the minds of staff, and we're trying to facilitate those conversations so that it does look seamless and meet the vision of the town. It looks like,
Susan, that, oh, go ahead.
I was just going to note that Jennifer has her hand up.
I
Yeah,
would just say that we're also working really closely with Park and Recs, Mecklenburg County Park and Recs, and with potentially, hopefully a rail trail associated with this. So we're also really mindful of the pedestrian mode, bike ped mode as well.
if I could just have this added to the list too, to Lou's point, if we were to cut that curve there a little bit before Independence Point Parkway, why wouldn't we look at doing it in front of the Harris Teeter corporate office and going down Crestdale?
Great, thank you. I've got that down.
So, couple points. I love the discussion. I think we're getting into some things that can make a difference. But we are at 6 minutes past the hour now, and I think we had originally slated 20 minutes for this discussion. So I don't mean to derail the discussion, no pun intended at all, but we did have other things on the agenda. So just beware of the time.
And we can always, there's a couple things that aren't as important as this. So happily, we can shift some of this, the other stuff to another meeting. Let me just drive through the rest of the project. We're almost at the end, and see if there's any questions. Okay. Is that okay, Bill?
That is really good. I have one question for Wyatt. The stop that is illustrated right here, and maybe Dana or Susan, you would know this. Right now there's trees there, and I know that there must be some plan for the entertainment district to have something going up at least close to where that station is illustrated here. Do you know, Wyatt?
I have a little bit of context and understanding, and certainly Susan does too. That property is owned by the Brigman family, and it basically is close to 80 acres in total. As part of our work on our project, we worked with them to actually install public sanitary sewer that goes down roughly where we had anticipated, based on information we knew at the time, Independence Point Parkway and the light rail would actually go. And so there is a line that cuts down and actually cuts over to sanitary sewer just north of Tanktown Road. I know that this property has been on the market for a while, but just things have not come together on it. But we're certainly hopeful that something great happens there, because it's our hope that we're a front door to what is going on to the south of it.
Thank you.
Is there another question?
I think that was background noise. Dana, go ahead and
Carrie,
finish this out.
Kerry has his hand up.
Thank you. I just want to make a comment. There is a master plan for the entertainment district the planning department has that lays out the 10-year to 15-year plan with the types of businesses, the types of interests. It's fairly comprehensive. It's available. It's on the website, and it may be very appropriate reading for some of us that perhaps aren't as familiar with it, because it will at least speak to what the town would like to see occur down in this particular area that includes both mixed use, retail and entertainment, housing, you name it, all center, hotels, restaurants, really a destination opportunity. So it is on the website. It's called the ENT Master Plan, Entertainment District.
Yeah, I know. And that's a great
Thank
point.
you.
I will, as for for light reading for you all, a homework assignment, I can send it out to everyone and quiz you on it at the next meeting.
Dana, send them all of our text amendments that we had to do as the pig.
Absolutely. Okay, so I'm going to drive through. We're almost at the end, and so we're going to bridge. There's going to be a bridge over 485. So I'm going to just flip to CPCC aerial. So you see this campus here. This is the Central Piedmont Community College here. And we are working with them. There is a lot of land. There's a lot of vacant land out here. Hendrick owns a big chunk of it. This is, right for some sort of development. Right now, there is, talk of this line going to Stallings. And that would basically, they're showing multiple options, either going down CPCC Lane, going down 74, or taking one of these side streets. And I apologize, this is a Mecklenburg County application, so it doesn't go into Union County, so we're not going to see everything. But this, in theory, if Union County decides to fund a piece of this, will continue on. This won't be the end. So we would like to see a stop, obviously, near the campus. And right now, CPCC has been, a relatively good partner, wanting to work with us and with CATS to make that happen. This will actually connect multiple campuses. It'll connect this campus to Uptown. They use this campus, and they have a partnership with UNC Charlotte up in University City. So the blue line and the purple line, there are kids that go back and forth between these two campuses for classes. So this would be a very amazing opportunity. And right now at UNC Charlotte, University of North Carolina at Charlotte, with your student fee, you get to ride light rail for free. So, CBCC, I don't know if they have that same benefit with enrollment, but that is something that the university system in University City does. So that's my presentation, Bill. I'm happy to answer any questions on this side of the project.
Thank you so much, Dana. Any other questions?
Looks like Jim
I have
Johnson.
a quick question. Wanted to just confirm, we can access this tool you've been showing us here, correct or no?
Yes, I sent that out on an email. Yep. I can send it out again. I sent that out on the email to Jennifer, but I don't know if you.
I saw the link. I just haven't explored it. So thank you.
Yeah, it's a little quirky. So you've got to go into the legend and go under CATS, and then find the silver line and find the stations to click everything on. If you have any problems, just give me a buzz and I will happily step you through it.
Okay, great. Thanks.
So anybody that has any questions about how to use the tool, set up a 2.5-hour meeting with Dana, and
I have all the
sure
time in the
he did.
world.
Of
Jim
course.
Johnson had a question.
Yeah, I just am curious. I mean, I've been listening to the current LPA and it looks okay. I mean, I'm not against it, but can that other modification that you brought forward a couple of weeks ago that went past Fuddruckers and had a problem with the high voltage wires with Duke Power, it does address some of the police issues, the crossing over at Trade, and I think it even makes the crossing there at the Parkway a little bit easier. Is that off the table? I mean, because obviously we're having to work with Duke Power as it is to do the bridge and to do everything else. So clearly we have some way of getting some traction with them. So, but I mean, I don't know. There were aspects of that I thought were kind of appealing. So I'm just curious, is that completely off the table or is that something we can think about?
So that is not off the table. What Andy's going to do is he's going to go through the remaining alignments. So the only reason I'm showing you only this alignment is because it's a locally preferred alignment, and I can show you this. I have this tool to do it. The other alignments, Andy is going to showcase for us at August 5th meeting. So this is not the only choice, but it is the locally preferred that was adopted in 2017.
Yeah, just
so look at those other alignments occur at the next meeting, or is it scheduled? When do we look at the other alignments?
August 5th, so our next meeting. That's why we're doing this one at this meeting, so you know going into what you're comparing it to.
Jim, did you want to finish your question?
No, I was just going to make a comment. It's like with CSX. I mean, we're going to have to deal with Duke as well. So maybe just if we're going to have to deal with them, it's just how much. Really, it's just a matter of degree, not a matter of whether we will or won't.
Jim, are you referring to the alignment that went all the way down Independence Point Parkway from Matthews Township Parkway?
Yeah, it skirted along the back and it stayed out of, all that North Trade and Matthews Mint Hill area, and then came around where the river, the Greenway, whatever would be someday in the future, and then comes up the Northeast Parkway. So it kind of turns right around Fuddruckers and then goes straight towards the Sportplex.
I think Dana and I are confused about where Fuddruckers is.
Where the aquatic center is, where the Harris Teeter is. It'd be on the back of the Harris Teeter.
The backside of the Harris Teeter. Okay. So that's the alignment that Lou sent over. Is that what you're referring to, Jim?
Yeah, it was a couple weeks ago that someone had sent that alignment out.
I apologize. I was confused, Susan. Thank you for picking that up. That is not that was alignment that Lou had sent out. He drew up. And that is something that was vetted, or I should say, reviewed back in 2017. And that one, I apologize, that was not something that they were moving forward with because it was along the power lines. And Andy can speak to it. I was not involved in that process. I don't work for CATS, I work for the town. So when I reached out to Andy, when Lou sent that drawing, I said, hey, did you all consider this? And he said yes, and that didn't make it through the rounds back in 2017. So he can speak to that on August 5th.
I mean, one last comment, and I'll shut up. But I mean, since it is an electric train and there are electric power lines, seems like not that bad of marriage, really, in some ways. I mean, if I had to deal with CSX or Duke Power, I think Duke Power might be better.
Lou has his hand up. If we could take maybe the last question.
Short comment on that route. It's 80 feet wide deliberately to keep it away from the power lines. That looks pretty good. That would keep it a long way away from the power line. It also allows for a road between the rail and the separating to the power line. It does run into some problems crossing Independence Point Parkway, which need to be looked at. Could be difficult to stay away from the power line at that point. That's all.
I think those are great conversations to drill into a little bit more with cats when we have the presentation next week. I hear you. I mean, it seems like a conversation that shouldn't be dead in the water. That it sounds like it is right now. So, I think we could phrase that in a way that might get some clarification as to why, if it is reasonable, why it sounds like it's dead in the water.
Well, it could serve as a backup in case we run into problems with Route 1 at the hospital.
Yeah.
If that falls through, this is another Route 1 sort of. That's its purpose.
Dana, you want to put the agenda back up on the screen? It's about 8:20, Bill.
Yes. Okay.
Oh, thank you. Okay.
Hold on a second. Let me see if I can do that.
Sorry, Dana, I think we're talking over each other. What was that?
I'm just trying to put the agenda back up.
There we go. Survey.
Okay, so survey. I asked you all to fill out a survey. We had 13 responses out of the 15 folks, so that's great. So thank you all for taking the time to fill it out. I got those results this morning, and I'm going to flip through. So basically, the first question we asked you all is to rank CATS's decision-making criteria. So CATS has a very specific decision-making criteria, and we wanted to see from you all what from our task force perspective, what's the most important. And so what we found was that number one, we had two things that were tied. Achieve competitive and reliable transit travel time and improve access to destinations and locations. So that tied for number one. Promote equitable transit-oriented development, that was number two. And then number three was capital and operating costs / environmental screening. So those are two separate things that tied for number three. And then lastly was reduce dependency on other projects or third parties. So basically what that first question is telling us, if at the end of the day, Bill is in charge of trying to wrangle all of you into making a consensus decision about an LPA, right? There's 15 of y'all, and we've got to come to a decision. And that could be hard. I think everyone could potentially have different thoughts, feelings about what they want, what the town needs. So trying to put this in some sort of order and potentially weight things one way more than the other is helpful for us staff to look at what CATS is doing in terms of their very sort of rigid decision-making matrix and see if we can reorder things to show you all in terms of alignments, what in terms of, that picking your values, how it's going to line up. So the second question that we sent out to everyone was, let me flip and see if I can. The second question was, what other criteria would you use to decide between alignments that wasn't proposed by CATS? What would you all decide? And so this was an open-ended question, and we got lots of responses. So thank you guys for thinking about this. And I did this at 5 o'clock this afternoon, so I apologize if these are not in great order, but this is sort of my initial first cut at this. And so the way I sort of looked at it was, okay, so if we put them in sort of themes, into groups, what do we have? There's a lot of stuff about property ownership, and you all concern about how we're going to impact property. So that's that first, the first column. Second column was town character, and making sure that that whatever we're doing it with a lot of thought about downtown Matthews. At least that's sort of my takeaway. The effect of downtown Matthews, local character. adaptation to Matthews' general buildings and appearance, potential population increase, things of that nature. Then we had one comment about the environment and how it's going to impact green space and tree canopy. We have the fourth column, which is traffic impacts. Potential development and related traffic issues impact on local traffic will create congestion, waiting areas where, for the lights to change, overall traffic patterns impacted. Then cost, which I thought was really interesting. Like, what is the cost going to be, the secondary cost to the town? We obviously aren't building the light rail, CATS is, but we'll probably have some infrastructure we're going to have to build around it, perhaps. And so one of you, and I don't know who wrote it, but is conscientious of, taxpayer dollars. So that's something that we can figure out if we can work into this. We had a lot of comments about pedestrian and bicycle accommodations that I think got our most responses. Pedestrian safety, bicyclist safety, crossing streets, providing pedestrian and auto safety alignments, should have multi-use paths alongside, proximity to parking and bus stops. So that, that walking piece seemed to have the most responses. And then rider safety. So literally making sure the rider feels safe at the stations, and I guess getting to the station. So that kind of stuff. So that stuff that you all wrote is not really captured. Some of it's captured, some of it's not captured in what CATS is doing. And that's really helpful for staff. What we plan to do is take this back and sort of massage it, and like, what are the matrix? What are the that's not the right word. What are the indicators that we could look at to make you all comfortable with a potential route? So, is one route more pedestrian and bicycle? Does it have more accommodations than another route? Would one route feel, riders feel safer than the other route? Is one less, I'm sure the environmental one is probably taken care of, but we can pull that information from CATS to give you pros and cons for each route. So that's sort of where my head's at, and what, sort of Susan and I and Jay and Shana have all thought about, and so I'm going to stop talking, and I'll let you answer as many questions as you like.
So Dana, thanks for putting together that survey, and thanks to everybody that gave input. I think these are some great points. Here's what I read in it, is that we're deeply interested in how this Silver Line is impacting Matthews, good and bad. And we want to try to pull out some points that we think can make it as good as it can be, I guess I'll just leave it at that, as good as it can be in a truly positive way. So a lot of thoughts here.
So next steps with this is we'll bring back something, either next meeting or the following meeting, to sort of see if you guys are comfortable with some sort of decision-making criteria.
So next meeting is going to be primarily focused on hearing some more details about the LPA and potentially some changes to be discussed about the LPA. I think what I'm hearing is there's going to be potentially two options in certain locations mentioned. Right? Did I capture that? Okay, so in terms of those the matrix. Dana, is there a chance that you could email that out to everybody?
The matrix, sure. I can email the matrix. So I will, by Friday, I'll put together the couple things that I think everyone will want to see. I'll email out the ENT information. I'll email out this matrix, and I'll email out the link to Charlotte Explorer. So I can do that by Friday of this week, so you guys can have it. And that following meeting is August 5th, where Katz is going to Andy will provide the other alternatives, the other alignments.
Dana, if you would like, and Susan may have seen this, but as we went through our process on the ENT, obviously it was 10 years old by the time that we took the first step. But I'm happy to supply some rendered site plans, and also they're really loose, but I'd be happy to share some of the conceptual 3D renderings that our consultant land design had done about sort of would incorporate with the front piece of our property, but going all the way back. If
you will send that to me, Wyatt, I'll happily share that with the group.
Sure. Yeah, it's not worth the paper it's printed on, but I think it'll provide some context when looking at the overall district.
We
ready to?
I was just going to say, Bill, we're at 8:29, so I'm not sure if that's enough time to do item 4 or how you want to handle it.
We can punch that. I mean, we could punch that to another meeting, punt it to another meeting if you'd like.
I would be grateful for that, actually. Any objection to having other topics of interest related to station locations, art advertisement, land use, bus routing, and sundry things to the next meeting? Okay, I'll pause. If anybody wants to speak up.
Just Natasha, I actually think it might make sense to have that at the next meeting, just because if we have Andy on at that time, he might be able to answer some of those questions a little bit more in context too, what they've done with the blue line, things like that.
That's fair. Thank you. Okay. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, it's punted to the next meeting. Thank you. Speaking of the next meeting, we do have Andy coming in to give us more detail. We talked so much about this already. I think we've already covered point number 4 here. We have 1, 2, 5, 4.
Incorrectly. I'm sorry.
Okay, I just noticed that. That's the funkiest Roman numeral. Okay, anyway, if you count numerically down, it'd be the 5th item, next meeting, 5 minutes, August 5th, CATS alignment presentation.
I have 2 5s. Wow, I was tired this afternoon.
That's quite all right. So we're building up a lot of expectations for this meeting, and I think that's both good and it's risky. But this meeting for me has helped frame what we're looking at on the map. That very broad line going through Matthews on the attachments that Dana sent out, it now makes a lot more sense. And seeing the matrix of some of the comments and concerns about the silver line from the survey, hearing the priorities that Dana presented, I think that's very, very helpful in understanding where we are as a task force, and I think we can make some progress. Good.
Bill, that's our last informational meeting, right? And then after that, we get down to decision making.
Yeah, then we have Chris Hoff do all the minutes, and we make all the decisions. Sorry, I'm joking about the minutes for Chris, but Chris does our minutes for the TAC committee, so I'm grateful for that.
You know, Chris, if Bill, if you don't mind me chiming in here, that was the plan, but that doesn't mean that we can't have CATS back. And keep in mind, in September, this list that Dana put up there, thank you, there's going to be some sort of cats public meeting, and that it's anticipated that everyone here would be able to hopefully participate in that public meeting. So we could have more informational meetings as the need arises, and staff would be looking to all of you to help us understand what more information you need in order to get to, we're looking at the October, November timeframe. So thank you for asking that.
Well, my only concern is, so we have the CATS presentation next time, ask some engineering specific questions there. But then if we come up with a decision-making criteria and then start potentially changing the alignment without additional feedback from CATS, we might run up against a wall. So I don't know, maybe we should have something in place where we, after each meeting, maybe bounce it off of them to provide input prior to our next meeting.
Yeah, and I would say that I think CATS would say back to that, they don't want necessarily other options. They want us to choose from their options. And I'm speaking, putting my CATS hat on. I don't work for CATS. I work for the town. So I will happily convey whatever this task force wants us to convey to Andy, and he can come back and explain why something wasn't looked at or something was looked at. So let's hear them on August 5th and then start hashing it out. Because we can, like Susan said, we can bring CATS back in. They have our schedule. They know we're going to come and knocking. They don't think that they're going to be able to only come on August 5th and not hang out with us again in another, some of these other meetings.
But Chris, I think you make a good point that our window for taking things back to CATS and saying you need to consider something else and getting meaningful feedback from them is closing after August 5th. However, with some help from staff, and Dana, I'll just reiterate that with some help from staff, maybe we can package that feedback up, package those ideas up, and take it back to CATS in a meaningful way where we could continue that loop, that feedback loop, before the November 4th final recommendation meeting.
Yeah, and just so, Chris, just so you all understand, I'm in meetings with CATS probably twice a week, because this is such an intensive process. So that loop that, staff is, we're in there, we're with them, and we will continue bringing forth stuff to them and bringing it back to you, and having them come to our meetings if we need them to explain stuff or answer more questions.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Keep the expectations high, keep the ideas coming, and I think we're ready to make a move for adjournment, right? Last item on the agenda, number whatever it is.
Make up a number.
Right, adjournment. Okay. Any objections to adjourning? Any last minute thoughts? All right. I don't know that we need to vote for adjournment in these task force meetings, right? We're just going to adjourn, right?
That's a Shayna question. Shayna, are we good with this adjourning?
We can adjourn whenever y'all want to. I'm ready.
Okay. Have a great evening, everybody. Thanks for your help.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.